Hey everyone, welcome back. Whew, I'm at Elk Falls today and I just did the stairs back up. But the sky is blue and the sun is out for now. So I really wanted to get out for a nice long walk, and I wanted to see the falls because I knew I had heard with all of the rain we've had the last couple of months that the water level was quite high and the falls were quite spectacular, and they were. I mean, they're always beautiful, always worth a visit if you're in Campbell River, but they're especially beautiful right now. So I have some errands to run, but today I wanted to answer the question that I got in the Q&A that I didn't answer last week, that I figured deserved a standalone answer. And the question was, there was more than one question. I answered one of her questions last week, but this question was quite amazing. The question was, how do I stay so positive in such a crazy world? And I thought I heard a dog coming, squirrel. And I thought that was such a fantastic question and that it deserved its own standalone answer, because the truth is I really try and stay positive, and the world can be quite chaotic and crazy. And I know that I'm lucky living in Canada where I do, that my world is not nearly as chaotic and uncertain as a lot of people around the world. But with everything that's happening in the world, with all the political situation that's happening to the south of us, and just everything in general, it can be very difficult to stay positive. And the truth is, while I try, I don't always succeed. And in fact, there are many times I don't succeed in staying positive, but I try. And so I thought, just casual conversation style, I would explain to you how I somewhat stay positive in this topsy-turvy, upside-down world that a lot of us are living in. I think the number one strategy that I try and use is gratitude. For me, remembering to remember the things that I'm grateful for mostly keeps me in that place of gratitude and positivity. And the main strategy I use to do that is the I get to strategy. I saw this somewhere so long ago, and it really resonated with me. And basically it goes like this. Let's just take work, for example. You know, sometimes work is great, sometimes work is shit. But then I kind of try and frame it this way. I get to have a job that pays me well. I get to work from home, which is pretty awesome. I get to work with some really great people, right? And I get to have the flexibility of scheduling appointments and such around my work schedule, or fit it into my work schedule, because I do work from home. And so by framing things as I get to, I end up looking at things in a more positive light. And we're not being all Pollyanna about this. There are still things that suck about all sorts of things. But when I frame things in the I get to way, then it really does help me stay positive as much as possible. And for me, that strategy really works. If you've not tried it, I challenge you to try it for a day, better yet a week, and see how that changes your mindset when you look at something, a situation or something that is frustrating, challenging, feels crazy. Frame it as I get to. Another thing that really works for me, and again, something that I don't always succeed at, is not opening social media within at least an hour after I wake up. So waiting at least an hour after I wake up. And certainly also not looking at social media for at least an hour before I go to sleep. Because again, that can be very triggering, very depressing. And I find when I do that, then I just set myself up for a day full of pessimistic thoughts. And so, yes, you have to be informed, but we don't need to be inundated. I've said this before. And so it's important to know what's going on in the world, particularly when it affects you personally. But there's so much misinformation on social media. And let's face it, it's all sensationalism. And so if you can stay off social media as much as possible, I'm on YouTube, so I kind of have to be there to make comments, reply to comments, and obviously post videos. But the less social media that I digest, the more positive that I stay. And my goal ultimately would be to maybe limit myself to 1 hour in the morning, or like in the first half of the day, an hour or two in the second half of the day, and then just putting my phone away. I have not succeeded in that, but I have found that by limiting social media, and when I'm on YouTube, sort of focusing on the channels that lift me up and bring me joy, I am able to stay so much more positive than when it's just a free-for-all and I find myself doom scrolling for, well, you start for just a minute, and before you know it, hour's gone by, and you know what I'm talking about. And so that's one of the strategies as well. Cold out there. Okay, another strategy that I think, well, all of these strategies are what works for me. The question was, what do I do to try and stay positive in a crazy world? Another strategy is I try and say something nice to a stranger every day that I can. Right? So you might be out grocery shopping, and let's say I see a woman who looks fantastic, maybe she's got great shoes, or she's just got a really unique kind of quirky style that I just think is amazing. Maybe it's a cashier or teller, something like that. I will say, hey, I just want to tell you, those are great shoes. Or, I love your style. You look amazing today. That sort of thing. If somebody has served me, or I'm going through a checkout line or something like that, I'll always ask them, usually, I'll try and ask them, hey, how's your shift going? Are you almost done for the day? And then I'll thank them. If somebody goes over and above for me, I just say, hey, thank you so much. You're amazing. You're awesome. I really appreciate it. Those are just little things. They're words, right? They don't technically change anything in somebody else's life or mine, but they actually do, because when a stranger says something kind to you or does something kind for you, it just shifts the energy, right? It shifts your energy as the person who's receiving it. And I find it shifts my energy as the person giving it. And, I have no scientific proof of this, but it has been my experience that the kinder I am to people, the more kindness I receive. And maybe it's just because I notice it more. I don't know. Like I say, I don't have a scientific way of measuring this, but that's just my experience. And so I really do try and say something kind, or a quick hello. Here in Canada, it's very common when you're passing somebody on the pathway to give them the nod and smile, the Canadian nod and smile. I will often say hello, hi. there's a dog, I love your pup, you know, that sort of thing. And by doing that, I just feel more positive in general, because I am interacting with people who are kind and friendly and not scary like the news and the media would have us believe, that everybody out there is, you know, just a scary person waiting to do some harm to us or, you know, take advantage of us. Certainly there's those people around in the world. But 99.999% of the people that you meet are not that. And, you know, we all feel better when we share a friendly hello, a smile, a kind word, compliment, gesture. And that is something that definitely helps me stay positive. Another strategy that really helps is when I'm in a grumpy mood, and believe me, I get into a grumpy mood, and I find myself being a bitch in traffic, or grumpy because the line is taking too long, or whatever. You know what I do? I take my ass back home and shut myself away, because I know that I'm gonna do and say something that I'm gonna feel really bad about, and that I don't want to have to live with, and I don't want to have to live with the knowledge that I have made somebody else's day worse. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a way that I stay positive. It just keeps me from being negative. It keeps me away from being negative, because we all have grumpy days, and we all get snarky and, you know, not at our best. And so by doing that, I prevent that happening. And I don't prevent it happening, but what I do is I prevent sort of vomiting that on, laying that on a total stranger, and ruining their day and my day. And so it is a strategy that, in a roundabout way, keeps me stay positive. Okay, another strategy for me that really helps me stay positive and not believe that the whole world is just going down the toilet is I stay in regular contact with the people that really matter to me. So I stay in regular contact with the kids. Now Keaton's on the island, so that's obviously a lot easier. But I stay in regular touch with Shiloh back in Calgary, with my friends back in Calgary, with my friend Zia in Vancouver, and Tracy on Salt Spring. I make sure that I regularly touch base and that we have regular conversations via via FaceTime, or even just texting. Why will that not stay up? Because it fills my soul when I get to spend time with the people that I love. And so many of them I can't spend time with in person right now. So I make a point. I'm very intentional about spending that virtual time or having those text conversations with those people. And that really helps me stay positive. Yum. So one final point. I'm home. I'm nice and warm. I got my jammy, my kitty jammies on, and I am going to relax. But I just wanted to say sort of one last strategy thing that I do just to stay positive is I try and do something, one thing of self-care a day. Don't always succeed, as with the others, but I try. I try and do one thing that calms me, makes me feel relaxed. You know, I like to light some candles and have my Christmas lights on. At Christmas, I love my oat nog with the almond Bailey's liqueur. Delish. You saw me put a little oat milk in there because the oat nog can be a little sweet, and that Bailey's is a little sweet, so I try and temper it down. I'm going to continue crocheting my blanket. I'm crocheting a little blanket, and I find that very relaxing. So what I tend to do is try and do one thing daily, and it doesn't have to be big, that makes me calm and makes me feel peaceful, which allows me to stay sort of calm, peaceful, and positive. Sometimes it's just pausing and savoring that first sip of coffee and just sort of relaxing before I get started work. Often at the end of the day, especially in the winter when it gets dark really early, it's only 5:30 and it's dark already. Well, it was dark at 4:30. I try and do, try and embrace it and just make my world cozy. I have my electric blankie. I've got my Christmas tree up now. Even when the tree's not up, I like to have candles on and soft lighting. I've got my LED little string lights. And when I do that, I feel positive. I feel calm. I feel, I don't know, what's the word, hopeful. Everything feels like it's a little bit more right. And when I'm feeling particularly stressed and anxious, because I do really struggle with anxiety, doing this and sort of these little rituals really help. And something like knitting, crocheting, that sort of thing, where your hands are busy but your mind, is not occupied with anything stressful, really helps. I might do a face mask later, not sure, but not very good lighting in here. Yeah, oh well. Anyways, so those are some of the things, the ways that I stay positive, ways that help me stay positive. I don't always succeed. I wish I succeeded more often, but overall, they work for me. And I think I'm a pretty positive person naturally, and obviously that helps. But those things are the things that came to mind when I thought about answering that question about how I stay positive in a crazy world. So I hope some of those help. I hope some of them resonated with you. Please, 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 down below in the comments, share ways that you stay positive, things that help you stay positive and calm in this uniquely chaotic world that we live in right now. In my 60 years, I don't think I've ever seen a time, even during the pandemic, I don't think there's ever been a time where the world felt more unsettled and like it was on the precipice of something big changing. I don't know what that could be. I don't know if it's going to be positive or negative. It's probably going to be a combination of both. And you know what? Most likely, none of us can do a single thing to control that. So what we have to do is find ways to make our immediate worlds calmer, more peaceful, find ways to bring positivity into our worlds and to ourselves, and share positivity with others, because we can move mountains when we are united, when we are kind to one another, when we see each other as human beings versus adversaries. And maybe that is the key. So anyways, it is Saturday before Christmas, and I have finished my Christmas shopping. I have my wrapping paper and my presents over there that I'm going to wrap. I'm going to enjoy my nog. If you have not tried the Earth Zone oat milk nog, I highly recommend it. Keaton and I did a taste test on vegan nogs a couple years ago. I'll link that down below because it's quite funny. It's one of my favorite videos, and we decided that this one was the favorite. There was a coconut milk one. I think that one was Silk. There was this one. There was the Califia Farms nog. And I think that one is almond based. I think there'll be a video next weekend, but I'm not sure because of Christmas and such. I think we'll still have our chat on New Year's Eve. I usually do a little chat on New Year's Eve, just sort of to talk about the year. I'll see you for sure then. So remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, including to yourself. I love you, and I'll see you next time.